week 11 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few tight ends I looked to hit off the waiver wire this week. The first guy, Luke Musgrave of the Green Bay Packers. So Musgrave, it's been a pretty decent rookie season here for him. Right now available in 77% of fantasy leagues. And obviously with any rookie, there's going to be some good games and some games where not much is going on. But the last few weeks here, he's carved out a decent role once again in his offense. And him and Jordan Love all season, for the most part, have had a good rapport. And Musgrave and the seam of the offense in the middle of the field has been getting open and making some plays. Week 8 versus Minnesota, 2 catches, 9 yards. Week 9 versus the Rams, 3 catches, 51 yards, and a touchdown. And Week 10 at Pittsburgh, 2 catches, 64 yards. So this week here at the tight end position, it's a little pedestrian. There's not many options on the waiver wire this week. Like last week, there were a bunch of guys that could break out and help fantasy owners, but most of those guys added in leagues over 50%, where guys like Musgrave have made the list this week. And Musgrave, like I said, he's been a serviceable option for the most part this season. The last 3 out of 4 games, 7 or more fantasy points. And this week here in Week 11 with a decent matchup versus the Chargers that give up the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. He's a tight end I give an ad to this week. The next guy is Daniel Bellinger of the New York Giants. So we know Darren Waller's out a few more weeks at least with the hamstring injury. And I know this New York Giant offense has just been trouble all season moving the football. But Daniel Bellinger right now available 99% of fantasy leagues. He's getting some targets here from Tommy DeVito. And the last 2 weeks, I know they're not eye-popping games, but it's someone to mention on the wire with a starting job and at least getting some work. Week 9 at Vegas, 3 catches, 43 yards. And Week 10 at the Cowboys, and that one, 2 catches, 34 yards. So Week 11, a pretty decent matchup at the Commanders that give up the 13th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. So Bellinger last season, we saw some flashes from him with this Giant team before he got hurt with the eye injury. And now over the last few games, he's at least in there pretty much 90% of the snaps and making some plays. So right now, if you're in deeper leagues and need a tight end, Bellinger's pretty much out there in a majority of leagues. The next tight end is Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots. So Hunter Henry and the Patriots going on bye week here and then have a matchup Week 12 at the New York Giants. Well, Hunter Henry, he's been up and down this season. I know him and Mac Jones have had a decent rapport, and there might be a quarterback change over there in New England going to Bailey Zapp. But the last few weeks here for Henry, Week 8 in Miami, 3 catches, 28 yards. Week 9 versus Washington, 4 catches, 39 yards and a touch. And then Week 10 versus the Colts in Germany, 3 catches, 21 yards. So right now, Week 12 is a good matchup at the Giants. We know their defense really can't stop anyone. Jake Ferguson just came off scoring a touchdown versus them for the Dallas Cowboys. And right now, Hunter Henry surprisingly still out there in 59% of fantasy leagues. Like I said, this week at the tight end position, for the most part on the wire, it's been quiet. But if you need some players that could go out there and still start for their teams and help you in deeper leagues or buy-in week fill-ins, these are some of the guys that can. The next tight end is Cade Otton of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Cade Otton, I know it's been an up-and-down season in his second year in the league, but the last 3 out of 4 weeks, he's had 8 or more fantasy points in PPR leagues. Here's Otton. Week 7 versus Atlanta, 5 catches, 43 yards. Week 8 at Buffalo, 4 catches, 27 yards, a 2-point conversion. Week 9 at Houston, 6 catches, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns, a fumble loss. And then Week 10, in that one versus Tennessee, it was the Mike Evans show, so nothing was going to Otton in that one. 2 catches, 10 yards on only 3 targets. So Week 11, it's a game where they're going to have to pass more, in my opinion, where the running game's not really going to get going at all here at the San Francisco 49ers. And it's a tough game, no doubt about it, but we know Cade Otton's a big target. He's a red zone target for sure. And a guy who's found the end zone a few times this season with 3 touchdowns on the year. So right now, with defenses rolling a lot of coverage to Mike Evans and Cade Otton being a tight end in the middle of the field that could go out there and make plays at time. Yeah, I know he's coming off a game where he didn't do much, but like I said, the last 3 out of 4 weeks, he's been a decent tight end for fantasy owners. He's available right now in 78% of fantasy leagues. Fifth and final tight end I look to get off the wire this week is Tyler Conklin of the New York Jets. Tyler Conklin, it's been an up-and-down season here for Conklin with this Jet team. Second on the team in receptions within the Jets behind Garrett Wilson. So the last 3 out of 4 games, he's had double-digit fantasy points as Tyler Conklin. So Week 9 versus the Los Angeles Chargers, 6 catches, 66 yards. And Week 10 at the Vegas Raiders, 7 catches, 70 yards. So Zach Wilson looks his way a lot. Is Tyler Conklin. He's in the middle of the field for the most part. And the guy who's working the seam and Garrett Wilson working the outside and obviously deep part of the field. So right now, Conklin getting a lot of targets, like I mentioned, second on the team in receptions. And this Jet team here, they don't really have much in that passing game. Allen Lazard's been a disappointment this season. Garrett Wilson, obviously a great wide receiver. But besides that, it's him and Tyler Conklin. So right now, well, he's got good targets, and he's been under the radar type of tight end. Available right now in 89% of fantasy leagues. With a quiet week on the waiver wire, Conklin is a good add this week. So that's a few tight ends I look to add here for week 11 of the fantasy football season.